Black men who date and marry white women or other non-black women. Let's talk about it. Why is it so? Why do these black men prefer white women? This is a social phenomenon or a social um, pattern that we see in the West, and by the West, I also include South Africa, that has a lot of black women upset and a lot of other black men who tend to fight for black women on everything upset. Let's talk about it. Why is it so? And to answer this question, I always find that we first need to say that it is very important when we're discussing topics that are sensitive and controversial like this, that everyone involved needs to be honest and needs to be sober. And when I'm talking about honesty, I'm talking about because sometimes you are in a disagreement with people who there is nothing that you can say that will ever satisfy them. Because at the end of the day, they are not trying to understand your motives. They are trying to explain to you why you are wrong. And there's nothing for you that you can ever say that will ever satisfy them that you are not wrong. And in situations like that, I always find that the conversation and the discussion in those instances are just simply futile. And I've engaged in many of those, not just in this as a man who dates white women and as a man who at this current moment prefers white women. I've been called all kinds of names, caricatured, ad hominem attacks, and the like. So we need to first engage in good faith, which I always find that good faith is lacking in this debate. And then secondly, one thing also that we need to move to in agreement with people when we're talking about this debate is we need to agree about how to use um, occurrence, incident rates of events, statistics, demographic information, and especially statistically representative events in a sample group. This is to say that there's nothing under the sun that you can talk about that would be 100% true of that particular population group you are talking about. So responses like not all, it depends, are responses that are often dishonest, intellectually dishonest, and done in bad faith. Because we need to move with the understanding that if something is true of a population group, majority of the time, especially if it is true of a population group, overwhelming majority of the time, and I'll define overwhelming majority of the time as 65% plus of the particular population group, then it is valid to use that generalization as though it were true, because it is largely true. And you don't need to say not all if it is largely true. And I can use the same example of saying that when someone says that the American people elected President Donald Trump to be their president, someone who were to respond and to say not all Americans would be understood to be being dishonest. If someone were to say that California is a Democrat state, and someone were to respond and say not all Californians vote for Democrats, everyone will understand that response as to be a dishonest response, because it is true that if you go into a random household in California, randomly selected, the chances are that household votes Democrat all the time. Just as how it is also true that if I say that Wyoming is a Republican state, that that statement is true, even if not all Wyoming residents vote for Republicans. So this is all going to say that honesty is important, and in terms of how we deal with representative data samples and majorities and things that are, how do you use generalities and generalizations in a manner that is valid. Now let's go into the reasons why black men prefer to date and to marry white women. And since I've already discussed this not all crap above, I don't need to say not this is not I don't need to say that these reasons I'm gonna go into are not true for all circumstances. I'm assuming that I'm speaking to adults who are rational. So let's go into it. What tends to happen, whether you are in South Africa or you're in the United States of America, how people end up preferring white women over black women when they are black is that, and here I will use an example where people did not grow up with white people like I did. People who did not grow up having meaningful and deep relationship, close, intimate relationships with white people like I did, my situation is very different. For most people, the first time that they encounter white people is in college, university. This is both in the in the United States of America and in South Africa. And so when a boy who comes from Cleveland, who is black and who is likely coming from raised by a single mother, goes to college, say in Georgia, at Georgetown, Atlanta, and he ends up, often by just chance, dating a white woman, what he soon discovers is that, wait, this experience that I'm having right now is different from the experience that I've had with the black women that I've dated all of my life. Because oftentimes these men have been dating black women all of their lives. They often find that, wait, actually, this relationship is a lot more peaceful than what I'm used to. This woman is a lot more agreeable and a lot more cooperative. And what tends to happen that they find that these women are a lot more feminine and a lot more soft. And while they are still in shock of what it is that they are experiencing, often experiencing for the very first time, the girl's family says to the daughter, bring that young man to our house. We want to meet him. So the girl invites you to go to her house. You go to meet her parents. They live in Buckhead, Atlanta. And then the man discovers, wait, this girl comes from a healthy family. Her father is there. He's a strong masculine man. The husband and the wife are having a healthy marriage. Secondly, the girl's mother is feminine. She is soft, she's agreeable, she submits to her husband, and she doesn't think that she needs to fight with her husband about the authority of the home. Hmm. And then he also discovers, if they invite him to come and visit them during Thanksgiving, that all of the uncles of this girl are married. The aunts are married. Everyone has a family. Everyone is in a loving family. And then eventually the boy looks at it and he says, I've never seen this in my life. I'm talking now in the instance of black men in America. And he says to himself, I want that for myself. And what doesn't help is that he meets a lot of black women at Georgia Tech, and they are all boisterous, disagreeable. Well, maybe not all, but you get what I'm saying. They are boisterous, they're disagreeable, I don't need a man. Um, they can't agree with you on anything, they'll fight with you on everything. And he makes a decision that, you know what? I'm done with that life. I don't want it anymore. This is better for me. This is what I want for myself. And then by the time he graduates college, he's engaged to this girl, he marries her. Even if that doesn't end up being the case and they end up not getting married, he now has been inducted into an experience that he can never now forget. It is something that he wants, and he can't get it from in the black community, especially in the black community in the United States. So what happens? He starts moving in circles where he's able to meet white women, Latina women, Asian women in particular are the ones who have all of these characteristics a lot more than the other women in terms of proportionally speaking. They are the most married, they are the most feminine. And whenever there's a interracial marriage, it's likely to involve an Asian woman. And it becomes very unlikely for a black man who has dated an Asian woman to ever go back. He might date Latina women, maybe, or white women, but for him to go back to dating black women is very unlikely. This is how it happens. And once the dam has breached, it has breached. There's nothing that you can do. And then there are instances, unique circumstances, but which I think they are sort of statistically significant enough that we need to talk about them. There are certain black men who are often considered socially awkward. They are not like weird like creeps. No, they are just a bit socially awkward. And a lot of the times why they're socially awkward is because they are intellectually gifted. And in the black community, these individuals don't get celebrated. And they particularly don't get love from black women. And then what tends to happen, these individuals get a GPO of 4 out of 5 in high school. They go to college. Say in South Africa, they go to the University of Cape Town or Wits or UP or Stellenbosch. In the United States, they might go to a good state school, or they might go to an Ivy League, or they might go to a good private college, and they do engineering or do science or physics or astrophysics, or they do medicine. And often what tends to happen, by the time they are in their final year, they are in a serious relationship with a white woman. And oftentimes what tends to happen is that black women don't talk to them. I've seen this happen. I have a friend of mine who, when I was at the University of Cape Town, he was from the Democratic Republic of Congo. During the year that he finished, he was the top student in the Democratic Republic of Congo. He came to South Africa to study at the University of Cape Town. He was in my class. He was one of the top 2 or top 3 students in my class, getting his degree first class, or you want to call it cum laude, or you want to call it with a GPA of, say, 3.9 out of 4, 3.8, 3.9. All he did under undergraduate was just focus on his work. Black girls didn't talk to him. Even black guys didn't talk to him. There is a handful of black guys who even talked to him more than 5 minutes. All of his friends were white guys. Black girls found him weird. After he finished his qualification, he was one of the very few of us to come to the United States of America. He came to the US, he was at Penn, and then he did his PhD. Sorry, I'm giving too many details. I can't give the details because I haven't gotten permission from him to tell his story. But, oh shit, he got his PhD in a good university in the United States of America. He is working currently in the United States of America. He married a white woman. I can promise you that when he came over in the United States, black women would still not be talking to him. This is what happens. And then when these men are successful, then all of a sudden, black women are like, hey, big head, hey, big head. But by that time, the die has been cast. I have another friend who is in South Africa, studied actuarial science, which is very difficult, one of the most difficult degrees in the university, was also kind of socially awkward, but started working in corporate Johannesburg, became very successful. Black women didn't really prefer him until he became very successful. When they all realized, oh, he's in the top 5% of earners, then all of a sudden they wanted him. But then by then, the way that his life was structured was just not suited to black women. He ended up marrying a white woman. And from what I understand, they have a very happy marriage. Those, I can tell you now that if a black man is intelligent to the point of being a genius, he's unlikely to end up marrying a black woman unless he is very steeped in the black culture, like some black intellectual black men that I know. But for people who are considered nerds, if you want to call it that, black women despise them. And then you complain about these men who are very successful, meet six-figure earners like $250,000 a year, $450,000 a year, $600,000 a year, and you complain about the fact that they don't want to marry you. And then we go into the issue of the justifications that black women give on why they are the way that they are, in terms of why they are masculine and they are not soft and they are not cooperative and agreeable. They go into this victimhood rant about how they've had to fight all of their lives and they've been oppressed and so on and so forth. And that their fathers were not there. And okay, suppose for instance that I accept that you are the way that you are because you've had to fight all of your life. The real question for me is that when a man wants to choose a wife that is suitable for him, the question is that, are you suitable for him? I'm not interested in knowing in terms of why you are the way that you are. I'm interested in knowing that, are you suitable for him? Number one. Number two, why should he care about what you've gone through? Why should he care? Why is it his problem? Please explain to me, why is it his problem? If a man was not making grade in terms of what women are looking for, and then he explains to you, gives you a dissertation of justifications of why he is not making the grade of what you are looking for, would black women care? We know that black women call men that they don't find suitable as Ray Rays and Pookies, and they insult them to no end. And women have this, black women, I don't want to be build a bob or whatever, build a pool or whatever. Do any of these men who are not making the money that these women want them to make, do any of these men have the room to justify themselves enough in order for these women to be willing to marry them? The answer is no. There's nothing that you can tell them if you are not making grade that will make them to want to be with you. If you are not making grade, women don't care why you are not making grade. All they care about is that you are not making the grade. So then the question is, then why should men care why you are not making the grade that you are not making? One of the things that I'll just say is that, folks, no one owes you understanding. No one owes you understanding. No one is going to listen to your sob story and then alter their life to accommodate your sob story. It is your job to make sure that you are meeting all the requirements of the things that are required by the parties that you want to be accepted by. That goes to both men and women. Doesn't matter what your background is, doesn't matter what you've gone through. It is your responsibilities to ensure that you are making the grade. If you are not making the grade, no one owes you understanding, no one owes you compassion, no one owes you anything. No one owes you anything. With that said, I hope that that clears things up about why white black men prefer white women. Cheers.